Well, hey, good Thursday evening to you. How is everyone out there? I, of course, am Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver. It's good to see you. It's good to be seen by you. And I hope everybody is doing absolutely okay and awesome. I am running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I am busy as hell. But I had a little bit of spare time last night to watch a movie, and we're going to talk about that. But before we do, I want to take a quick minute. I want to issue a public apology about something I wasn't aware was happening, but I absolutely want to take a hot minute and say to the person that it was happening to, I am unremittingly sorry for. And so there's Discord servers that I frequent, I've been invited to, and so on, etc., other than mine. And to signal boost my channel, I've gone in those Discord servers and copy and pasted show announcements and put them in there. Some Discord servers have special areas, special channels to allow me to do that. Not me specifically, but they've got like Jayashiro Finney has a tabletop sessions group, and I think I'm the only person who posts there, and it's just spam links to my group, or to my shows rather, in their group. I didn't realize that I was spamming over a conversation in a Discord server of one of my favorite people, Don McVitie over at Hellabard Games, their Discord server. And I was just posting up the links as things went, just post up a link. I didn't realize that I was dropping these in the middle of a conversation. Like an active, we're trying to have a discussion here. And I am so embarrassed about that. I am so. So Don, if you're watching this, I apologize unreservedly. I'm sorry about that. I will refrain I'll find a better way to let you Nordalians know about each episode. I'm sorry. I'm legitimately sorry. Hello, Lord Corion. Greetings to you. How are you? But other than that, things are going awesome. Guys, we have 1,248 subs on the YouTube channel, and that's awesome. If you're just coming by for the first time, if YouTube promoted me just enough that you caught this at random, or you saw one of those spam messages and you don't know what we're all about here, but you're intrigued, welcome. If you're one of the 70 plus people who subscribed over the last, 7 days, 8 days, is you're like, oh, I'll check this guy out later, and you click subscribe. Thank you again. Thank you so much. But if you are just stopping by, if this is just a thing, you're just checking out for the first time, please click that subscribe button and click that bell icon for notifications. That is such an incredible help, and I do appreciate it unreservedly. Thank you so very, very much. So, what we do here is we talk about classic RPG matters and matters that matter to me, that maybe they fall outside that jurisdiction a little bit. We have Let's Plays, where we get together on Tuesday nights and we play first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. We got a pretty good group. You might have a seat or two on Tuesday nights. If you're interested, you can drop me you can drop me a PM about that. Because, yeah, we got a Discord. That's right. We got a Discord. You can just follow us right there. We got Gamma World. We got Classic Traveler. We got all kinds of Let's Plays. We have guests on the show. It's a lot of fun. And I think if you subscribe, you'll find something you like. So, a couple of things I want to do. First of all, let's talk about the good stuff. Let's talk about the Spine of Night. And you might be asking yourself, well, what in the heck is the Spine of Night? And to answer that question, you really have to look at something that came well before it called Exordium. Didn't have all my stuff up. My apologies. Is this it? Come on. That's it. There we go. So first of all, and I'll put the link in here. This is going to be kind of a spoiler-heavy review of these two. Greetings, Vincent. Good to see you. This is going to kind of be a spoiler-heavy review of Exordium and Spine of Night, and to a lesser degree, Mongrel. There's a cat out there. His name is Morgan King. You dropped this, King. Back in when was this? This was I'm looking for the date. Yeah. So back in 2017, I can't believe it was that long ago. Morgan King released a very, very short handmade rotoscoped. And I'll explain rotoscoping if you don't know what rotoscoping is in just a second. Ultra violent fantasy cartoon in the vein of classic fantasy cartoons from the 70s. Wizards, The Lord of the Rings, Fire and Ice. Gosh, what else? A little bit of the Hobbit and the Return of the King from Rankin Bass. Just so much cool stuff kind of fed into this. And Morgan King took it on himself to make an animation by himself and open up just a crack for us to peek through into his fantasy world. Now, rotoscoping, if you're not familiar with, it is an animation technique whereby you shoot a negative and print a positive of people acting. Yes, similar to Fire and Ice, yes. And then you use traditional cell animations. You blow up the individual frames, and then you trace onto cells over the live action. So basically, you're making animated drawings with individual live action frames. Okay, so it is one of the older animation styles, and again, it was very, very popular back in the 70s. Lord of the Rings used it. Ralph Bakshi used it extensively. I could go down the whole list again, but yeah, Ralph Bakshi used it extensively. And I mean, people's tastes on it varied. You know, some people loved it, some people were not so fond of it. But if you grew up liking heavy metal and rock and roll and Lord of the Rings and Wizards and Fire and Ice, I mean, it all feeds into that. So that's his style. Now that we've kind of established what his style is, let's talk about the movie that released back in 2017, Gorgonaut, Exordium. Exordium is a short tale that deals with three warriors who are on an unnamed quest. When they arrive at this great snowy field high up in the mountains, just to the left and to the right, as far as the eye can see, there's the remains of bodies. In fact, as our heroes are arriving, they can hear the distant sound of battle, of men being cut down. But when they get there, all is still. And the only person who stands between them and a low wall is a golden armored warrior that they refer to as the gatekeeper, and they demand his key to the gate. You can very easily see that the giant two-handed sword he's got along the part of the blade that's nearest to the cross piece, which I don't know my sword parts. If anybody out there knows what that's called and you want to tell me, feel free. It has jagged edges. It has teeth like a key. So they demand his key. He addresses the speaker as the Son of Man and says, "You'll never get the key. What lies beyond the gate is only sorrow." To which he retorts, "My people starve and fight in endless war. It is their only hope. The bloom is their only hope." And the gatekeeper again responds, "Then turn back. There is no hope." At this, the Son of Man's two companions psych themselves up into a two-pronged attack. To say what happens next is gory and violent is really an understatement. The gatekeeper slices the first guy almost completely in half, from his shoulder down to his hip. And Morgan King does not spare us a single detail of watching this guy get cut like a piece of ham. His dual sword wielding friend rushes in. The gatekeeper deflects him, wounds him grievously in the throat, and as he falls forward, the gatekeeper grabs the top of his head as he's leaning forward and then crushes it. And at last, after entreating him one final time and receiving the same cryptic refusal, the Son of Man rushes in. Only, despite him taking a horrible wound to the leg, which causes the gatekeeper's sword to become lodged in the Son of Man's leg, he swings his axe repeatedly, severs the gatekeeper's arm, hews him in the side, and even as he's dying, in a voice as clear as he has said so far, the gatekeeper says, "O Son of Man, it means nothing." And he hews him to death, pulls the sword out of his thigh, removes the gatekeeper's helmet, and the being inside is shriveled and corpse-like. Like whoever it was had been dead for ages, countless ages. So the Son of Man continues, uses the key part of the sword, opens the gate, and enters what can only be described as a graveyard built along a steep slope. He finds his way through until he reaches a titanic skull sitting at the base of the pinnacle of this mountain. And growing throughout the skull is a vine with these luminous blue flowers growing on it. He takes one, sniffs it, inhales some of the pollen, and undergoes an apotheosis. He's able to manipulate the stars in the sky. It starts out fairly simply. He heals his bad wound on his leg that the gatekeeper had put there. And then he realizes he can cause the stones, various plinths and headstones in the graveyard, to move just by gesturing slightly. And in looking at the sky, he sees a vision of the origin of the skull and the bloom. The visions eventually pass, and he sits down and he just stares at the stars and wonders aloud at how the gods could allow such power to exist and yet leave their people to suffer, to live and die seemingly meaningless lives. And he nods in realization, perhaps nihilistically, that it really is meaningless and that no one should have this power. So, leaving the skull behind him and taking the guardian's sword, he returns to the gate, closes it and locks it behind him, returns to the guardian's body, removes its armor, and dons it himself to stand there as a guard against anyone else who would seek the power of the bloom. Now, in itself, and I linked the film. You can check it out there if you want to. Like I said, I did kind of spoil it. First of all, and this was something that I learned after watching the cartoon, because I wasn't sure what an exordium was. An exordium is a beginning, a preamble, a prologue, and that's what this is. I'm going to take a minute here and give kind of like a mini review of it, now that I've given it sort of a capsule overview. Yeah, Robert Phillips, it is kind of protoculture-esque. Like, the music is excellent. You can find it. You know what? Let me see here. Copy link address. See if this will. You can find the sound. Oh my God. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you. I appreciate that. You can't just make a farging link. Well, no, if it's coming from our website, we have to append 10,000 lines of code to it. You can't just copy a link anyway. So there's the soundtrack on Bandcamp. The animation style is from the 70s. Stylings of the music is also straight out of the 70s. All the tracks are free. I really highly recommend you listen to them. Curse of the Rising Sun by After Future. The best track, the dirtiest, grungiest track, and it reminds me of some very early Sabbath work, is Illuminations Foretold by Ice Dragon. Strand of Oaks does the main theme of Exordium and then a reprise of it. Astronomical Union by Ice Dragon is pretty trippy, and so is Time Flower by After Future. All amazing music, and I highly, highly recommend it. As I said, Exordium is an introduction, a way of preamble. And so it is, because in 2021, now, Morgan King had teased for a long time that he was going to expand out the Exordium cinematic universe, because there's Exordium and then there's Mongrel and a couple of other short pieces of animation, all of which kind of fit together into a shared universe. Well, it's shared amongst himself, it's him and his production team. So here, you know what? I'll bring this up. I don't know if this would get me dinged on YouTube for playing some of this music. It's free, but it's not. It's, I can't turn around and just have something on the screen to look at other than just me waving my hands about. So he created this series of shorts. Exordium was the first, then Mongrel. And he began to bring these pieces together, and with the help of really some outstanding people, he put together a full cast, and in 2021 brought us a feature-length film animated in the same style. And it deals with the events after Exordium. The voice cast includes Lucy Lawless, Patton Oswalt, and Joe Manganiello. And it is how the bloom has affected and shaped this middle-low fantasy world. And what I mean by middle-low fantasy is that this world is... You do see people casting spells. There is magic, but say there's not demi-humans per se. There is an intelligent ape creature in one of the cartoons, but you don't have like hordes of orcs and goblins and cities of elves and kingdoms of dwarves and so on. So it hews a little closer to Conan than Dungeons and Dragons. And Dungeons and Dragons is high middle fantasy or high low fantasy, depending on how you do it. But Spine of Night picks up where Exordium leaves off. Lucy Lawless's character goes up much the same path that the Son of Man did. Now, let me just pause something here. Exordium probably isn't family friendly. It's really gory, and there's a couple of scenes of nudity in it, despite it being animated. Nothing presented sexually. It's just naked people. Well, naked demigods anyway. Spine of Night is absolutely not a fun family cartoon. Unless your kids are in their late teens, early 20s. But I'm not going to judge. But Lucy Lawless's character plays a shaman who has come to seek out the last bloom. She's wearing one around her neck. And she journeys to the skull, where the now weary gatekeeper has kept his vigil for centuries. The Son of Man, having assumed the role of the gatekeeper, has guarded it for centuries against people who would seize it and use his power. And in a series of short pieces, she explains to the new gatekeeper, the Son of Man, how after the Night of 1,000 Suns, that is when the Son of Man got the power of the bloom and tampered with the heavens for a little while for amusement or whatever. This strange pollen settled in the swamp that she and her people lived in, and up sprang the blooms. And as she seemed particularly attuned to its power, she wore a living wreath of the blooms around her neck and used them to protect and guide her tribe. A group of armored warriors show up, slaughters the tribe, and captures her. She's hauled before Patton Oswalt's character, this very haughty prince. And right at that time, there's a scholar visiting the prince. The scholar recognizes her power, or her potential power. And even as he's about to have her beaten to death, he says, whoa, wait a minute. No. She's a powerful tribal spellcaster. And Patton Oswalt's prince says, okay, you know what? Here, I'm gonna give you guys some proper names on this. Give me just a second. Just a second here. And we keep saying, oh, Patton Oswalt. And so the shaman is Zod. It's TZOD, so I'm just going to say Zod. Patton Oswalt's character is Lord Pyranton, and let's see. Geyser, yes. So at any rate, the scholar Geyser says, hey, don't kill her, don't harm her. She has potent magic. And says, all right, cast a spell for me. And she plucks a petal, single petal from a bloom, throws it in a brazier, and starts conjuring these images. Pyranton moves closer and closer to see the images in the fire, whereupon she kicks the brazier over and it sets him on fire and mutilates his face. In retaliation, he has her entire marshlands burned down. And also, he has her thrown in prison as well with Gul Sur. She uses her magic to escape, and just when it seems like they're going to be able to, the King's Guard, or the Lord's Guard, and the Lord himself, Pyranton. Mobius asked, did I count the miniatures on my shelf? No, I did not. I don't know how many I have. They're set upon, again, by Lord Pyranton and his men. They defeat the men in melee combat, the two of them. She casts a spell using another petal, which begins to suck Lord Pyranton into the swamp, and he's screaming for help. And as she's watching him die, standing there spitefully, Galser stabs her to death, like guts her, takes the lei, and then flees with it. He returns to his order, where rather than being fated as a hero for returning with the bloom and all of its nascent power, he's chained up in a dungeon by the head of the order. The head of the order strikes a deal with him, commits a huge blood sacrifice of his own citizens. But then Galser, of course, turns on him and then becomes a tyrannical lord, committing many atrocities across the land. Now, Zod is telling the Guardian this story, and he's like, wait, you died. How did this happen? How are you here? How are you telling me this? Have I gone mad with loneliness and I'm just imagining you? And she says, no, my spirit followed him. And she goes on to explain how the last free city that was on the verge of being overcome just a short time before she had ascended to meet the Guardian, how 3 brave warriors, Falcon Hawk, Sparrow Crow, and Kestrel Wren, captured an airship used by Galser's armies, crashed it into Galser's castle, and the napalm-like fire that they were spraying over cities and villages with this thing burned the castle to the ground. All the blooms that Galser had cultivated throughout the entirety of his castle burst and burn, and the blood rituals that he was using to revive his dead warriors, all that magic went awry. The blood that he had accumulated to cast his spells with ran into streams and creeks and into the swamp where she had lain for decades, and brought her back to life. And she could sense the one remaining bloom in the skull with the Guardian. And so she goes there, and she's telling the Guardian of this. Meanwhile, Galser has sensed that remaining bloom, even though he's lost everything. The giant wreath that was around his neck is burned away. His cultivated vines of blooms are gone. He gathers up what's left of his armies and marches. She senses him there. He demands the remaining bloom, which she has plucked and consumed for knowledge, but she still has one hanging around her neck. His crossbowmen fill her full of bolts, but as she's lying there, mortally wounded, she uses the last bloom that she has to reanimate the bodies of dead guardians, who then physically tear Galser in half. But his horrible, unnatural life is still preserved by his decades of contact with the bloom. So she pulls out his heart, which is now glowing the same blue that the bloom was, and crushes it, and in doing so destroys the mountain, herself, the skull, everything is blasted into nothingness. And in the end, the fallout of this explosion are little tiny seedlets that flutter to the ground all across the world. So that's essentially the plot of The Spine of Night. And what did I think of it? I think it's pretty damn awesome. Let's just go ahead and get the obvious D&D perspective out of the way. I think The Spine of Night is great fodder for any dungeon master looking for something a little unusual to throw in their games. I mean, we could probably be here till midnight trying to pick apart what classes everybody would be. I mean, Zod is almost certainly a high-level druidess. The Guardian is some kind of undead warrior. Pyrantin was just a mid-level fighter. Well, high enough to establish a kingdom. Galsar was an insane magic user, or maybe even an insane sage. Who knows? But if you watch Exordium and enjoy it, you're really going to like The Spine of Night. The only thing that I don't like about The Spine of Night over Exordium is when the Guardian tells Zod of how he came to the mountain. I think it really oversimplifies and glosses over the tale told in Exordium. And I think, let me see here. I'm just going to go ahead and link the trailer anyway. Just in case I forgot to. Druids were early villains in Greyhawk and Quag Keep. They were still described as neutral, though, but neutral at that time meant faithless and untrustworthy sometimes. So let's talk about technical aspects of the film. The rotoscoping is it's done really well. And I plant tongue firmly in cheek when I'm saying this. If you've ever wanted to see an action movie where Lucy Lawless is naked through the whole thing, I mean, completely naked, full frontal, there's your chance in Spine of Night. It's a rotoscoped actress voiced by Lucy Lawless. So, sorry. If cartoon boobas are your thing, then you've got 90 plus minutes of them there. But no, the sound design is amazing. Like when people get cut apart or blood spills on the floor, and both of those things happen a lot, or boots trudging through mud, or shoes clopping down stone halls, dungeons, gates creaking open. It's all done exceptionally well. Soundtrack wise, I know it's a lot of the same band's work, Ice Dragons. Peter Scarabello did an okay job with the sound design or with the music design, but personally, I think the soundtrack from it's available over here. I think I linked it. Yeah, I linked it already. Strand of Oaks, Ice Dragon, and After Future. It's just 6 tracks. You'll want to go find their albums and listen to it. I think the tracks that Morgan King picked out for the Exordium soundtrack work better than the incidental music. The incidental music is still good, but I just like the stoner doom metal of the individual rock bands than I do the incidental stuff. Yes, John David, it is on Shudder. I watched it on there last night, in fact. So I like the soundtrack. I linked to it. I linked to the Bandcamp for it. Better than the incidental music in the full-length film. I wish he'd gotten more stuff from Strand of Oaks, Ice Dragon, and After Future. I'm not going to restart now. Leave me alone. Story-wise, overall, what did I think of it? As basically an anthology picture, I like how things were woven together. I mean, it was pretty obvious when Zod was killed in the first chapter that somehow the bloom would bring her back to life, and that's why she is visiting the Guardian. Like heavy metal, it is uneven. I mean, but also like heavy metal with the Lochnar linking all the pieces together, the Spine of Night links all the pieces together here, but not necessarily in a satisfactory way. And interestingly enough, I think the rotoscope style of animation works to bolster that, because the 1970s filmmaking style approach, like heavy metal, like Wizards, although Wizards is a linear story. I think you guys might know what I'm talking about. It seems to work. The animation seems to help that out. A live action movie that was this jumpy, you might be a little less quick to praise, maybe. And I kind of felt that. I kind of felt that as a movie that was seeking to be of a particular style, artistic choices made to make something in the mold of something that we as Gen Xers would embrace and enjoy, because it's very much like a slice of our childhood. You expect certain things and you forgive certain things that you might not out of a new thing. I mean, I make very Dungeons and Dragons, classic Dungeons and Dragons adventures, and I make no bones about it. When I design my modules, I'm like, I am trying to cast you back to 1979. Okay? Not for some weird 50s nostalgia restaurant vibe, just because that's what I love. So you're not going to get a lot of heavy exposition. You're not going to get a page and a half of backstory for an NPC. And that, I think, maybe I'm stating this a little inelegantly. This is very much the same sort of love letter from then to now, and from now to then, from Morgan King. If you sat on me and said, no, give it a hard numeric score, I would say like a 7.9 or an 8. I think where it loses points is the crunchy sound design. It's the sound design in Spine of Night is almost too good. The sound design in Exordium sounds like it's coming off of a single track 35 millimeter audio print, like you'd see in the neighborhood theater circa 1977. You know, Star Wars ain't out yet. This is like a early spring, late winter release. And it was a little too slick. It was a little too clean, I feel, in Spine of Night. I shouldn't say sound design, because the sound design is very much the same between the two products. I guess sound mastering. Just if you've got Shudder or some other way to watch Spine of Night, which, by the way, you can do if you've got Amazon Prime. You can do like a free trial to watch Spine of Night. Just go in and add Shudder to your list of channels, and then you can go in and watch it, and then you can turn off your free trial, or elect not to continue it. I don't know. Check out your Amazon thing if you want. But watch Spine of Night immediately after watching Exordium, and I think you're going to find that Exordium fits, or the audio for Exordium fits it to a T. It's too cleaned up. It's too digital. It's too slick. It's too clipped. It's too not analog in Spine of Night. I mean, visually, it's a treat. It's so amazing. The best parts of it are when it's very clearly hand done, and even if it's mastered on a computer. And to be sure, this is digital rotoscoping, but it's done to look like pen and paper, and it looks really well. And it's like when I put a map in a module that I give away for free. You know, I've color matched it to the CYMK values of non-repro blue of the original maps in Dungeons and Dragons. I don't have to. I'm giving away copies of it. You guys can photocopy it. But it's just a thing that I do, and it's the way that I do it. And similarly, you know, Morgan King could have done this with Poser and Photoshop and made everything all slick and nice. But it is not hand done. But it is a labor of love, and you should see it. It is worth your time. If you watch Exordium and you love it and you're just like, I want more of this, and you watch the other movies in the Morgan King cinematic universe, and you love all of those, you're gonna love this. You're definitely gonna love this. If you watch those, or one of those, or part of one of those, and you're like, this is really turning me off, I don't dig this at all, I don't like the music, I don't like the sound design, I don't like the visuals, then you're probably not going to like it. But it scratches a definite audio visual D&D like itch. And I asked Morgan King, because when I saw Exordium the first time, as people were circulating the URL around on the Book of Faces, and I hopped over there and watched it, I said, the vibe of this film, and this is in the comments, you can go to the YouTube and see my comment from 5 years ago. I said to him, it speaks to me on a level as a fan of old school, original 74 and 1E advanced D&D. Like, it could have been torn from the pages of a gonzo adventure of old back in the day. Were the folks at Gorgonaut influenced by this? And he responded. He said, I grew up on D&D and fell in love with the 1E Monster Manual. Most of my adolescence was playing, and now decades later, I play Apocalypse World when I have the chance. That 70s RPG feel is baked deep into everything that we do. Good call. And it's true. Guys, you can see it right there on the screen. You can see it right up there on the screen. Do watch. I think you're going to love it, and I think you're going to love Spine of Night. But the cool thing is you can watch Exordium, and if you don't dig it, you don't have to watch it. I want to keep gushing about the music. It's like I've linked. You can get Ice Dragon's album. I gotta find this. The other movies are Mongrel and the Wrath of the Ape King and Mongrel Prelude to the Wrath of the Ape King. Those are the other ones. But I gotta find this here. Yes, I have been talking about it now for a half an hour, so here's the link to Exordium. It's linked right there in the chat, and it's 8 minutes. I'm not asking you guys to take like a huge time investment. Like, oh man, Bill wants me to watch like a 30-minute thing. No. It's 8 minutes. It's 8 minutes of time that I think you will enjoy. And by the way, none of this is not like a paid thing. Here it is. Okay, so this is where they get their tracks from. This is Tome of the Future Ancients. Exordium is only 8 minutes. John David was asking. Exordium is only 8 minutes, but it really does establish things. And the other shorts, let me see. I'm going to scroll down here. Does it show? Yeah, Mongrel is like 6.5 minutes, and Mongrel Prelude to the Wrath of the Ape King is 6.5 minutes, and Mongrel and the Wrath of the Ape King is only 3 minutes. So it's literally less than half an hour to watch the entire thing and get a bunch of the hooks, a bunch of story hooks about Spine of Night. Will there be a test on the Discord? No, I will not quiz you on the Discord. I will just share stuff like I just shared the Ice Dragon link, Tome of the Future Ancients, which again has such a like Black Sabbath self-titled first album, except Ozzy is singing from like 25 feet away from the mic and outside the building. I can't explain it. You got to listen to it. If you like that sludgy, doom metal-y kind of stuff, go and listen. And so JD is asking, anyone watching Primal on Adult Swim? I intend to. It's like on my list of things to do because I really love Yevgeny Tartakovsky. That's Tartakovsky's work, isn't it? Watch, I probably just put my foot in my mouth and that's not him. Yeah, that's Gedney. I thought so. So yeah, that's on my list of things to watch. Oh my gosh, I loved Samurai Jack. Dexter's Lab was my jam. I love telling this story about back in the early 90s when Cartoon Network was just getting going and they didn't really have much in the way of content. They commissioned Dexter's Lab based on the reaction to the cartoon short that introduced Dexter and Dee Dee. my wife and I were staying at this beachside hotel, and it was a Saturday morning, and you know how it is when you're young, dinks, dual income, no kids. It's like 1993 or 94 or something like that. And it's Saturday morning, we're going to eat, we're going to go down to the surf, we're going to hit the pool, just go exploring, whatever. And I'm lying there, and she's got the TV on in the hotel room. And I'm like, I gotta be dreaming, because I'm hearing cartoons, and I'm hearing Macho Man Randy Savage. I'm like, what even in the hell is this? So finally, I forced myself to full awakeness. And it wasn't Dexter's Lab, but it was Dial M for Monkey, which is a spinoff of Dexter's Lab. And the bad guy was this extra dimensional wrestler called Rasslor, who went from planet to planet wrestling all of their superheroes. I was laughing my ass off. I thought it was the funniest. I thought it was the most awesome thing. And at that time, our cable provider in Orlando, because we're over on the coast, were we over in Clearwater, south of Clearwater? I don't remember. I'll have to ask the missus when she's feeling better. But yeah, we didn't get, so I didn't see Dexter's Lab again for the longest time. And we finally moved into an apartment complex that had an apartment complex cable service that was like 17 channels. And they added Cartoon Network, and I just I fell in love with Dexter's Lab. Dexter's Lab filled the void that Classic Mystery Science Theater 3000 left. Don't ask me why. I'm prattling on about that. But I loved Dexter's Lab. Genndy Tartakovsky's animation is just so good. So good. And then, he did Samurai Jack, and Star Wars The Clone Wars. Oh, it was wonderful. It's like they could have stopped there, right? That was. I didn't know that, Damien. So Damien says, Rasslor is, and it's Rasslor with an R. We can get these things correct just as easily as we can get them wrong. Rasslor is based on a Marvel character called the Champion of the Galaxy, and it's a tribute to a Marvel storyline. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. ATHF. I got to say, I like ATHF a lot, and they would do just some of the unexpected stuff, like in the movie when they got Neil Peart from Rush just kind of pops in to play the Song of Life on the drums. But for me, my favorite part of Aqua Teen Hunger Force is Dr. Weird. Without a doubt, Dr. Weird and Steve. There's 2 super cuts, and it's 22 minutes of watching in total of just the Dr. Weird and Steve bits on YouTube. And the bizarre continuity, just everything about them makes me laugh so hard. I love Dr. Weird and Steve. Gentlemen, behold! I can't. Hands down, one of my favorites is most of my viewers are well old enough to remember this, but just in case you aren't, the back in the 80s and 90s, phone companies would call you incessantly. Yeah, sir, I'm looking here at your current phone package. Are you happy with this? They dox you to yourself on the phone and then ask if you wanted to switch to one of the bazillion long distance servers back then. And I got a funny story to tell about that. I'm just rambling now that I've gushed about Spine of Night. But hey, this is where some of my better work comes from. He says, as there's 6 people on the stream right now. But anyway, there's this Dr. Weird, and they get called. And it's like, yeah, so we're wondering if you'd like to take a quick survey about your phone service. And Dr. Weird covers up and he goes, Steve, send the phone spiders. He starts feeding these mechanical spiders into a hatch on the phone. And he's like, yes, go on, go. And then you can hear on the other end of the phone, the guy starts to scream in bloody terror as the phone spiders arrive. That's just the best bit. Thank you, Damien. I appreciate it, bud. Hey, you don't always get 20 people every night. And I will agree. I will drink to this. Clone Wars was better than 90% of the rest of Star Wars. No, I have to tell my passport story. When my wife and I got married, we were going to we were going to go to Barbados, and I had to expedite my passport. Back in the 90s, getting a passport expedited meant spending a lot more money. And, we were preparing for a wedding. Everything is just kind of, going crazy. Oh, thank you, Gears. 20 people and you now. Well, I hope so. I hope so. So, over the course of like 2 weeks, I ping-ponged between long-distance services. I switched from like AT&T to Sprint, and from Sprint back to, to Bell South, just back and forth until I made a few $100. Plus, I was able to go down to the local office of the State Department and get an like a 1-day passport just by scamming long distance companies, just by flim-flamming them, by switching back and forth. I took this wad of phone company cash offers to switch sides. And I was a sellsword. I was a mercenary for honeymoon money, and went and plunked that down. So it's just a little funny story I thought you guys would appreciate. So what else? What else do we got here? I guess that's just about it. Do watch Exordium. It's 7 or 8 minutes of time. If you like it, go watch Mongrel. The 2 Mongrel shorts, they should come up in links. And if you like those, if all 3 of those, you're like, this is in my wheelhouse, I dig this, yo. I doubt if you'll do that, but in case you do, then go check out Exordium. And you guys let me know, would you like me to see if I can scare up Morgan King and have him on the show? The guy seems to know his D&D, and he says it's baked into everything. Maybe we can get Morgan King as a guest on a little later this fall. Hello, Jack Photon. Photon Torpedoes. We're just talking about an animated movie called Exordium. You should check it out. It's worth your time, my friend. It is worth your time. Yeah, you know what? Yeah. I'll say I can't guarantee anything. And I certainly can't guarantee anything in the next 5 to 7 to 8 to 9 days. Okay, so if you haven't been on the show, tomorrow night, we're going to be back. I'm going to do some more deep dive history stuff. And then we're going to play Camel World at the end of the evening. Try and have a good send off for Yang Yan Zhao. He's going to be out for a little while. However, after next Tuesday, I will probably be gone for about a week. I wish it was on vacation. I wish I could say I'm flying far away to a tropical island to put my feet up and listen to the surf. Mrs. the Dungeon Delver, we have her health. That we have a health. I don't really want to call it a crisis because I certainly don't want anyone to panic. I don't know, Robert. There's a lot of there's folks I've straight up asked, like, will you come on the show? And they're like, yes, absolutely, unquestionably, I'll be there. And then I messaged them a second time, radio silence. And then there's some people who've approached me about being on the show, but I can certainly reach out. But anyway, back to matters at hand. Mrs. the Dungeon Delver is going to be going to need all of my attention going forward, and sitting here for an hour when I might have to jump up and run out of the room and help her out is not really going to work. And for at least a few days, I may not even be here on the home front enough to do a show. I mean, I'll certainly be here, but it's like, I don't want to keep referencing this, but you remember last Monday? And that was a little bit of existential stress. Give you the login keys and you'll say, no. Although I will tell you that that following Wednesday is, like I said, after next Tuesday is when I have to take a hiatus. That following Wednesday, there will still be a Traveler game. And we're still playing D&D on Tuesday night. In fact, I will be awake well after the day. I will probably sleep until a little bit before showtime on Tuesday because we have to be at the hospital at a fairly early hour on Wednesday morning. So that the Tuesday night AD&D game will just be in the middle of my day. But Wednesday Traveler, which I hope you guys will seriously consider. I hope you guys will very seriously consider joining up to the Traveler game. If you have any interest in playing Classic Traveler, reach out to us on the Discord and talk to the Viking Hat GM. I thank you for asking, John Day. I had a really just probably like 45 minutes before the show, some things went on that really threw me for a loop, and I probably maybe ought to not have done an episode, but it was like that far before, so I stuck it out. And people were private messaging me like, you have 1,000-yard stare, I think was one of the comments. And I was a bit of a mess. So, and I apologize for that. I do. I have a bit of a standard that I like to maintain a bit of one. So when I get under that much stress in the future, I'll, try to be better. I'll try to be better. But it's water under the drawbridge now. Anyway, so there will be a show on Wednesday. Kyle will have the keys. There will be a substitute. Be nice to him. I will have him write a report and let me know what happens. Wednesday, there will be Traveler. I will not be here for it. I will be elsewhere. Well, I won't be on the show. I might be here, but I won't be on the show. And then saying Thursday and Friday, and then the following Monday, and possibly the following Tuesday. Well, thank you, John David. I mean, let me just get real for a second. And I say this not to get too far off on a tangent. I want to. Life happens, shit happens, right? Things happen to all of us, and I'm not about to have a breakdown or anything like that. Some stuff that's gone on in my life. I was pretty astounded to hear a professional, in reference to myself, use the acronym PTSD. I didn't believe it. I didn't think it. I didn't think it. It was allowed. I didn't think it counted, because I've never been shot at. I've been in a war. I haven't been in a plane crash. I've been on a ship that went down in the ocean. How can that even? There's a really, really good war dramedy called Generation Kill on HBO. And Brad Iceman Colbert, who's a real guy, by the way, is a Marine in the 1st Marine Recon Unit, and he went into Iraq in 2003. And he's got this video on YouTube, the real person, not the actor. And I looked him up, and I was like, oh, he's got a video. Cool, let me watch that. And I was just completely blown away by just this few seconds in the video where he talks about post-traumatic stress. And here's a guy who has been there and done that, right? He has been shot at. He has been through war. He has seen the elephant, guys. And this dude, it's he is made of carved wood. I'm 270 pounds of cookie dough. And he says, look, just what John David said. Anything, any stress can trigger it. You think you did something wrong? Somebody ghosts you at the wrong time? Anything. Dealing with my mom, watching her just implode with Alzheimer's, and things that happened to me in my past, in my childhood. I guess it just all piled up. And when the doc said that, I didn't want to believe him. And I saw Brad Colbert sit right there and say, it can be anybody. It can be anything. And it was like something just kind of... You ever work on a car? You ever have a stuck wheel on an old car, like the bearings are seized, and you finally get it turning? It finally spins. It squeaks a little and grinds a little, but you shoot a little WD-40, little PB blaster in there, and you get it spinning. That's what that was like, hearing him talk about that. And I try not to overshare, right? You know, I mean, I'm sure all you guys out there who care about Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and original D&D and, you know, laughing and joking with Gary and so on and et cetera are probably like, okay, I'm just going to mute this. I'll come back when it looks like he's talking about D&D again. Or maybe that's the case, but be that as it may. I got a really good community here. I got a good community here. I mean, I don't ever want to lose this. I mean, if I woke up tomorrow and I had 1 million subs on YouTube, it would be awesome and it would be frightening, because you guys, for the most part, you know me, you know, I mean, I feel like we're just hanging out in my game room together, right? Like we all play D&D, or we just come over and shoot the shit, talk about a movie we like, and yeah, you know, monetization, whatever. But, you know, I'd hate to look up and feel like, phew, now there's a huge distance. There's a huge distance now between me and being able to be real with you guys. I'd hate that. I'd hate that. So as this channel grows, I just want you guys to know we're all pals here, right? Well, John, thank you. I can't. You make me to. I'm reminded of what the real Adrian Cronauer said to Robin Williams at the premiere of Good Morning Vietnam. He just kind of shrugged and said, "You make me sound so neat." So I try and share that knowledge as much as I can. And I don't hold myself as an alpha geek. Like, well, let me tell you something. I knew Gary Gygax and Gary Gygax, and no. I never alpha geek. When I tell people I met Gary Gygax, I always feel like prefacing it behind all these conditionals and but, and I'm going to sit down and I'm not going to tower over you. It was, you know, I just kind of stumbled into it. So I like to share that knowledge, but I don't like to lord it over people, and I don't like to lord anything over people. I don't. You know what? I loved my dad as the day was long. I mean, my pop was such an incredible person. But if you said, Bill, you got to pick one flaw. There's got to be something. I would say it's probably that that dad tended to get a little, I don't know, caught up in people. So that's what I got to say about that. That's, you know, and last Monday, a week ago from this past Monday, just everything just kind of, it just, like one little pebble is not going to hurt you. A handful of sand, you brush it off. But when it's a front end loader full of gravel or a dump truck full of sand, you know, you just you feel like you're drowning. And I guess a week ago, this past Monday, I just felt like I was drowning. And some good people reached out to me and talked to me, and they brought shovels. They brought shovels. Yeah, PC, I know, brother. I know. I'm sorry, man. If this eases it along, if you get some amusement out of it, that's fine. But I'm not going to mope and I'm not going to mully grub. I could have it a hell of a lot worse. And I know that. I got a great community here. You guys are awesome. I've said this before, and I'll say this right now. I'll say it, God's honest truth. If there was one of you out there, if there was one person who said, I'm going to tune in and I'm going to watch your live stream because it's funny and it's enjoyable, it'd be less of a live stream and more of just like a video call. But I'd still do it. That's what I said in March of 2020 when I grabbed my webcam and my blue snowball mic and set them on my crappy 2 irregularly sized art tables that wobbled all over the place. And I was over there on that side of the office and doing it like in the middle of the afternoon when nobody could watch. I like 2-3 people watching and listening and leaving comments, and it was all just on Facebook. And which, by the way, if you're waiting for me to return to Facebook, I'm waiting for Facebook to give me an answer as to why they nuked one of my videos. So that's another discussion for another time. But I said when I started, I said, look, yeah, it looks like there's like 3 people watching, and all 3 people were like, yep, I'm here. Besides mushrooms. Okay. But it's just 3 people, and I was like, I don't care if it's 2 of you. Because remember, March of 2020, just the valves just got shut off. We couldn't go out. We couldn't go to the mall. We couldn't go to the movies. Couldn't go to the comic and game store. Couldn't gather as friends in a house and play D&D. And there were a whole lot of people that were shut off just like that. I mean, I made jokes about being like in Chuck Heston, Mega Man, every day, walk to the window. There's people staggering around out there. Come out, Neville, come out. But no, I just I know there were a lot of people and like getting together to game. That was their thing. That was their social thing. And so I saw these people that like the lights were going off. Their meetings with their friends were going away. And I very quickly, I said, look what I'm doing. I'm talking to everybody. And even then, for like 3 or 4 or 6 years prior to that, my D&D game has been on Discord and other online services. So I told people, let me help you. Don't lose what you love. If D&D role-playing games is how you connect to people, it's like it's your bar, it's your pizza restaurant, it's your, whatever. And you feel like you can't now, guess what? You can. Now, I got an okay-ish setup here. I got a high definition DSLR camera. It's massive overkill for the amount of streaming I can do. Studio lights, this thing. But I told people then, and I'll tell you now, you need a mobile phone and a way to get on the internet. That's it. That's all you need. If your gaming group doesn't want to get together online, maybe they're technophobes, whatever, or your DM is like, I don't know how to use Roll20, or I don't know. There's 1,001 resources, and they triple every month on the internet that you can find to learn how to use it. If they're just not wanting to do it at all, or they can't find the info, ask me. I'll share that info with you. I'll point you in the right direction. I'll tell you how to get set up using a virtual tabletop of some kind, using as little as your phone and Discord. Greetings, Todd. Greetings. These are small hurdles to cross, and you don't have to lose your gaming, whether it's Andromeda Strain, whether it's the orangutan measles. I don't know what I can say on YouTube without them going, you're spreading disinfo, shut him down. So you guys know what I mean. Or it's just distance. Your friends moved away. It's a glorious time. I think it was Tim. Somebody told me it was Tim Kask. I think Paul Stormberg told me it was Tim Kask. Called Gary up for a clarification about an original Dungeons and Dragons rule from Minneapolis to Lake Geneva. And guys, until like the late 1990s, early 2000s, long distance rates were bonkers. And in the 70s, this is in the 80s, not the 70s, but when we first moved to Florida, we lived in a neighborhood called Pine Hills. And it was a nice neighborhood at the time. So if you know Central Florida and you're like, Pine Hills, no, I'm talking about Pine Hills of 1981, 82. Calling to where I live now in Longwood was a long distance call and would cost you 25 cents a minute. It's an 11-mile drive. It was crazy. So imagine you're young Tim Kask and you're calling Gary Gygax from Crime Hills, Doomsword. You're calling Gary Gygax from Minneapolis. And you end up talking to him, not only talking to him about a rules clarification for hours, but then playing Dungeons and Dragons by telephone. Like, run a D&D game for me. Okay. If Gary could do it in 1974, guys, we can do it now for free. I can help you. So don't let yourself be isolated. Don't let yourself be shut off and cut off and shut away. Sorry, I just had to answer your question there. Calling someone collect. Did anybody here get their own 800 number? That, like, remember that, like, 25-month period back in the 90s when you could, like, get your own 800 number? Oh, what was it? What was another one? A Watts line. I don't remember what it is. WATS, a Watts line. I remember back in 95, this was, no. I'm sorry, not 90, like 93. This would have been 93. There was a young lady that I was very attracted to. I grabbed from the trash bin at work. We had run this promo with the music magazine that Musicland sold, Request. We had run this promo, and in every issue of Request was a 10-minute long distance card. She was going to school over in Tampa. I still lived in Orlando. Long distance call on record store wages. When that month was over, I grabbed a stack of Request magazines. And over the course of a week, talking to her on the phone, I burned through every one of those calls. 10 minutes would be up. We hear the little doon din, or whatever the AT&T sound was, and it would cut me off, and I'd grab another one and call her. Oh, it was nuts. Yeah, phone freak. I never had the guts to phone freak. Oh, that is so cool. Bill Murray only has an 800 number. No cell, no agent, no message. I have heard some wild stories about Bill Murray, just like walking into people's house parties and just starts tending bar. That's crazy amazing, man. That's so cool. That is so cool. You're only old if you had a party line. What was it? Was it star 72 or star 70? Yeah, I had I could get like a call, I could take a call and then boop. Oh, hang on, John. Press the receiver thing, and then, oh, it's Tonka Todd. Okay, all right, and just chit chat. Hey, I got John on the line. I'll talk to you later. Okay, all right, and then if you held the thing down too long, you'd hang up on both parties. Yeah. But then when you wanted to use your computer to get on the internet at 28.8 or 14.4, you'd dial, you'd put star 70 in your string. Gosh, who here remembers modem strings? ATDT phone number, comma, and S0 and T1 and T0. You put all the extra stuff on there to make it easy to pick things up. You mentioned talking about Bill Murray. I remember reading an article a few years ago about the last party that he attended that Gilda Radner was at. And it's just heartbreaking. But he made her laugh, and he made everyone laugh with her. Modem noises, yes. I think it was the first data center job I had. I had a headset and boom mic and a Meridian phone with a headset jacked into it. And I worked in this gymnasium-sized data center. I literally had probably over 300 feet of RJ11 cord, so I could walk around and go to servers and talk to the support people at Data General for working on the servers. So I could just put the phone under my arm and then be walking along, my headset on, just completely dorking out. Oh my gosh, this is... I started out doing a movie review tonight, and we're talking about Gilda Radner, Bill Murray, and me dragging a phone cord around a data center. I don't even know how we got here. Somebody hand me the map. John David, you got the map? Flip that back here. Let me see that. Road maps. You remember road maps? When you got your first car, did your dad get you the big Rand McNally book? You keep it in the trunk. I was watching. Okay, so story time. I got to tell you this story, and then we might begin to wrap up. I don't know. There's like 12 or 13 of you here now. We had like so few viewers, and now it's like gone up. So I don't know. Yeah, I keep like maps of Florida in both of my cars. I don't dare unfold them for that very reason right there. Okay, so who here has seen Office Space? At the time when Office Space came out, I did the job that Ron Livingston's character has. I helped bank software be Y2K compliant. I worked in a data center for a company called Star Systems. And if you don't know who that is, you know how the back of ATM debit cards look like race cars because they've got all these different logos on them? Honor Technologies, Star Systems, yada, yada, yada. I worked initially for Honor Technology, and then we merged with Star Systems. So when that movie came out, when Office Space came out, it like came and went in the movie theaters like that. I didn't even know about it. From Mike Judge, creator of Beavis and Butthead. Oh, it's out of the theater. So I didn't even have a chance to see it. But it popped up on Comedy Central almost immediately. And I'm sitting there and it's like, oh, it's premiering tonight. And Colleen was like, oh, you want to watch it? Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sitting there. I got a beer open. Turn the movie on. And I remember I told my coworker, Jose Alves, who was just this fantastic guy, played D&D with him for a long time. Jose, if you're out there on the interwebs, hello. I'll try and track you down, my friend. Anyway. So I'm watching Office Space, the funny intro, David Herman and Ron Livingston, and I cannot remember the gentleman who played Samir. I can't remember his character. I have the internet. Really? You guys are going to do this to me? Ajay Naidu. Okay. We're watching the movie, and commercial comes on. No, it wasn't even commercial. They're just talking about programming and Y2K and all of this EFT stuff. And I just reach over and I pick up the phone, cordless phone, and I call Jose and I said, are you watching Office Space on Comedy Central right now? And there's this long pause, like a horror movie. And he goes, yeah. I said, Joe, this is us. This movie's about us. And he just starts laughing. He had this great infectious laugh. And he goes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Guys, I'm here to tell you, Everybody in that movie existed in real life at Star Systems back in the 1990s. I'm not going to tell you last names, but I could tell you everybody in that movie. I got tagged as Michael Bolton because apparently I was twitchy and easily panicked and enraged. I don't know. Jose was like this combination of Samir and Ron Livingston's character, Peter. Do I code? I have. So at that time, when I was working at Star Systems, this is the funny thing. Everyone kind of probably has these preconceived notions of what big corporate mainframes do. That, like, okay, it's like a big PC, right? Or it's got tape reels that spin on it. We used software that ran on IBM Big Iron called the system. It was a System 390, IBM S390. It was a modern computer. Day job wise, the missus works and I take care of the kids. I do technical writing for IT publications, and I do game writing for other publications. It ain't making me rich. I'll tell you that much. But anyway, so IBM System 390s, at that time, they were about fetching and putting data. That's it. Fetch, put, fetch, put, fetch, put, fetch, put. And when all you're doing is moving files to a place where a bank can get the files, or getting files from a bank to update our files of their files and then put them back, the code required is really, really super not complex. It's not simple. Well, no, it's simple, but it is very complex. IBM has a scheduler script called JCL, Job Control Language. And I'll tell you a funny story about that too, that is D&D related, and I've told it here on the channel before. But in case you've missed it. So I got pretty okay at JCL. Now, if I got a job offer from a company, we're going to pay you $90,000 a year. We need a guy who knows his way around JCL, and we found your resume floating around. I'd be like, sorry, that was 30 years ago, buddy. That's not happening. Jose and I sat out one day to find out how friendly you could make JCL. How, see you, Chris. How friendly could JCL be? Could you do fun stuff? That was my complaint. This language sucks. You can't do fun stuff with it. I lent Jose my copy of Writing Adventure Games in BASIC for Your Home Computer by Chris Hartnell, which I have kept from the days of my Commodore 64, just because it's got badass cover art and occasionally I like to tinker. And the source code had come out for Colossal Cave Adventure. Jose proceeded to attempt to write a text adventure to run on an IBM S390 in JCL. Yeah, James, I'm sorry. It is very stream of consciousness tonight. But again, this is fantasy gaming related. So Jose got Colossal Cave Adventure, which inspired Zork and Adventureland and a few other fantasy text games, to where it could kind of run on an IBM S390. We had test segments, which was a computer isolated from everything else to test code on. And we had a production segment where when you would go in and put your bank card in at the ATM to get some money out or buy gas or, you know, get a 6-pack at 7-Eleven or purchase a houseboat or whatever one does, that was all handled through two separate systems, but it was also handled on the IBM side. Jose launched a session and started Advent on the production segment. Let me explain something. There are events that happen on an IBM mainframe that require user intervention. You have to hit a button on a console, like press enter, like so-and-so green bar printer is 99%, attend, yes, no, BAP. Some of them, it just beeps and scrolls up data, but it's always this constant journal of jobs that are starting, where they're at, when they completed, did they fail, why'd they fail. An adventure game that's waiting for you to type something in requires user intervention. Every console in the company, every virtual console being run on a PC through a terminal emulator, which included all the IBM support staff, many executives, all of the programmers, everyone in production support, and everyone in the ops center, from their terminals, because you could direct terminal output. Here, bleep. And everyone sees, you are standing west of a White House. There is a mailbox here. What do you want to do? ? Now, that's funny. Here's the thing. When it's waiting for user intervention, it's not letting other notifications go. Its buffer is filling with other notifications, waiting for user intervention before it will show anything else. Jose ran Adventure on an in-production IBM S390 dedicated to electronic finance. Anything you did on the IBMs, if you kicked off a job, it had your name on it. Task, blah, 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 started by user ID. And Adventure is all input. Go to the head of the class, John David. Bleep. And it's just sitting there building up. The buffer is just filling up with messages. Every second, getting exponentially more messages that it needs to display. Takes Jose about 10 seconds to figure out what he's done. He stops the program and he called me up and said, "Did you see that?" He called me up and says, he calls me and says, "Did you see that?" And I said, "No." He said, "Thank God." So he ran a little tapeworm and purged it out of most of the logs. But the head of the IBM support department calls him up and says, Joe, what is this west of house? There's a white mailbox here. Exits are north, southeast, and west. What's going on down there? And he's like, oh, yeah, that's I was using a data fetch. It just, it's cool. It's fine. So it actually didn't lead to him being fired, strangely enough. But he brought me a screen grab to prove to me, because I had switched over. I was internal computer. I was like desktop PC support at that point. I was out of the production department, and thank God. I was like, what compelled? He's like, I thought it was on the test server. I was like, man, it wasn't on the test server. So yeah, we went down to Applebee's and drank. I know Applebee's, but it was closest to our data center. So if in, I don't know, 1997, 98, 98, 99, you were anywhere in the United States attempting to use your ATM card, and it seemed to take a few seconds longer than it should have, mid-afternoon, in a fall period, I think. Now you know why. Now you know why. I speak terrible Mexican. He was Chilean. Joe was actually from Chile. So I take no responsibility after a couple of beers for my terrible Chilean accent. I tell you what, Joe and I played Dungeons and Dragons. Oh my God, his son is almost 30 now. Oh, I'm going to have to go have a lie down. But yeah, if he and his son used to play D&D with me, if I can ever coax him onto the show, if he remembers, I'll let him tell that story. Just be terrible Mexican too. Oh my God. Osric or the Arcanum 30th Adventure. Greetings, Jehovah. I would say Osric. Oh no, I got you. I got you, Johnny. No worries. I would say Osric. Okay, so this weirds me out. This is weird. How many of you guys have published your own stuff that's actually gotten pushed out places? Every once in a while, I go because my kids want to go to Barnes and Noble. They get gift cards from their grandparents from time to time from Barnes and Noble, and they like to go down there and buy books and so forth, which is cool, I guess. And I'll go down there, and then the section of role-playing games, sometimes I see the Osric rule book and my name's in it. And part of me is just like, what kind of surreal world am I living in where that's a thing? And then other times when I see somebody standing near it, I want to say, hey, my name's in that book, I've never done that, by the way. I have actually never done that. Just like, I always kind of make a tongue-in-cheek joke when I go down to Gods and Monsters and they've got copies of The Lost Crypt on the shelf. I'm like, let me just put this more towards the front, and we have we have a laugh. But when I see copies of Osric in mega bookstores, I'm just like, man, that's weird. And okay, so full confession time, James, to you and to anyone else who has Osric. I did 4 monsters and 2 entries in Osric. I was there when Osric was being created, but I didn't put anything into it as far as that, except for the Sphinx, the Gynosphinx, and the spiders. Okay, so I guess technically that's 6, but I did sphinxes and spiders. That is my total contribution to Osric. So I would never tell somebody, oh yeah, I helped write Osric, because I didn't really, you know. I mean, that's like, you know, like, yeah, I helped make Blade Runner. Oh, really? What scenes are you in? Well, you notice that one scene when you see a guy off in the background picking his tooth? Yeah, I work craft services, and he's getting some of my barbecue out of his teeth, you know. And you're like, oh, okay. So that's kind of where I am on that radar. Your copy is the Black Blade Public. I think that's the one that I saw. I hang out in Barnes and Noble to tell people my name's in it. But I tell you, you know, it was a bigger deal for me. I'm not going to go digging for it, guys. Every time I look for something on this shelf, it is an exercise in hilarity, and stuff falls everywhere. So I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But so here's a fun D&D story. I'll tell you guys. When I started working for Gary, there was a group. We started out as about 30, and it did dwindle down as people dropped off from the project, and ended up being about 11 of us. But one of the writers on the project reached out to me and said, hey, I'm going to be in Orlando at an IT conference. Do you want to get together for lunch? I'll be staying at this hotel. And I was thinking to myself, they have pretty good food there, actually. Yeah, sure, I'll go down there. And so, you know, I had a Kobe beef hamburger, and we talked for a good couple of hours. And so he says to me, he says, at the end of this, because we talked about D&D just nonstop, this guy, and he says, so here's the thing. I've got I've got an opening with InfoWeek magazine. We need a little product reviewer, and I know lots of IT people who game, and I know lots of D&D writers who are IT people and so on, but I don't know any IT people that can write well except for you. And I know you can write well because you're working for Gary Gygax. And if you couldn't write well, you wouldn't be working for Gary Gygax. So, John David, then is it Ixnay on the Kobe? Ixnay on the Kobe. Crack me up. Anyway, so he says, does that sound interesting? And I was like, well, yeah, sure. I mean, what would I have to, interview for it? Would talk to somebody? And his is like, no, that's this has been the interview. Like you're neither a freak nor a weirdo. And I still do that to this day. And that guy who stuck his hand out and said, hey kid, you want a job writing IT stuff? Because you know IT and you're a good writer. Was my buddy Don McVitie. And I've known Don now for 17 years, 18 years. And he is a stellar, wonderful person. he comes up with these writing gigs, just like there have been times when Don has been like Gandalf in the Battle for Helm's Deep, you know, look to the east on the morning of the third day for my return. And it's just like, you know, I got bills coming due, or just whatever. Just be nice to get to the end of the month and not go, okay, we got a few days, and then it all starts up again, you know? And he just like, oh, I've got a client. They need blah, blah, blah written. Unprompted. And in comes the work. And then there are times when Don is just a wonderful person to talk to. But that is a huge Venn diagram crossover, right? Like we're living in this space right here where am good writer, am in IT, do D&D stuff right there in the center. And it got me, you know, it launched an awesome friendship, and it's helped out a little bit. Let's see. James Seymour. Have I had George from Emperor's Choice Games on the show? No, I haven't. James, are you on the Discord? That sounds really interesting. We could actually have some RPG related content. See, I'm kind of trying to make things up because I know I'm not going to be here a bunch next week. Should do a show on Twit, D&D and tech. Let's ask Leo. Okay. I didn't know you could do stuff like that on Twitter, though. I honestly didn't. The show does have a Twitter, _Dungeon Delver. If you want to follow me, let's see. Anybody? Oh, Twitch. Yeah, Twitch. Okay. I'm sorry. I saw Twit and this weekend. Okay. Twit this week in tech. Okay. I gotcha. Let me make a note. So I'll tell you for free. I mean, the Venn diagram crossover of tech nerds and D&D nerds is essentially just one complete unbroken circle. We're all just wom. I have never met. I have been surprised, but I have never met someone who was into hardcore tech who was not at least at some point. And let me say, fourth generation hardcore tech, like from the 70s forward. There are a fair number of big iron guys from the 60s who were still working in the 90s who were like, you know, D&D was just not a thing for them. But anyway, yeah, we I remember I used a large format printer and blew up Jeff Easley's gorgeous picture of Drelzna in repose from S4 Lost Caverns of Sochconth to like quadruple size. It made a nice poster in my office, and just a random page from the Dungeon Master's guide, or the Monster Manual, the Beholder page. I remember it was the Beholder. And I had a programmer guy I could not stand, Mike Gilpatrick. I'll tell you some Mike Gilpatrick one evening when I've had more or less to drink. Actually stopped. My door was open and I just put the posters up, and he stopped by my office and walked right in and sat right down and said, "Oh, you play D&D?" It's like, yeah. Yeah. And he just proceeded to engage me and talk about role-playing games. I was like, cool. Cool. No, I mean, when I can hold court on 5th edition stuff. Lord knows Volcano God left me enough of it. Left enough of it in my care. And I've said before, 5th edition's not a bad fantasy role-playing game. It really isn't. It's probably my 3rd or 4th favorite D&D. And there are many Dungeons and Dragons. Don't get me wrong. I'm not just saying that like, oh, and that's the only. No, I mean, I'm serious. I don't hate it. You're my lucky number 7 Twitter follower. Thank you, Corian. I should cover 5 Eater Mocha. Well, you know how to DM me, right, John David? I think you're on the what do you call it? The Discord. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, so some jerk bought your winning lottery ticket in a completely different state. Drat the luck. Yeah, I heard about that. 1.2 billion, and he gets to keep like 340 million. I can't even fathom that. Although I have said that if I ever hit a lottery in a state that had a small enough tax that I could do it, I would buy one of the scrapped aircraft carriers from the Naval Reserve Fleet and renovate it enough so I could land propeller like Cessnas on it, just to sail around the world with my Cessna aircraft carrier. I would not do any such thing. But just think how scary it would be if you're just like, yeah, I'm starting a scrapping business, and you bought the entire reserve fleet. The Navy would be like, what are you planning on doing with all those ships? I haven't decided yet. Right. Yeah, the wife and I were laughing about that today. Like, oh no, they took $900 million you were not going to see anyway. Honestly, like if I found if I won $300, I would be over the moon. I remember Jeff Foxworthy made this great joke about just talking to a friend of his who said, well, I'm not going to play the lottery unless it's up over $10 million. And he's like, oh, well, I didn't realize your financial needs were at such a level. I can't do it justice, but it's fun stuff. Oh, goodness. LARPing Twilight 2000. That would be fun. Buy and restore like an M113 or something like that. Not to do violence with, but to have one of those tracks to just like 4-wheel in. I think that would be fun. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a point at which, like, I don't talk about money. I brought it up, right? I brought it up, and shame on me for doing so. But anyway, so tomorrow night we're going to bring out some more. I do have some classic D&D stuff. You guys don't want to see me like squatting down like Renfield digging through stacks of books, and I've been going for 2 hours now. I must admit, John David, 2 of my favorite channels are Sophie Line and the Chieftain. She is just an armor enthusiast. He is an Irish-born dual citizen U.S. Armored Cavalry officer, retired, and they have YouTube channels, and they talk about armored vehicles, and it's fascinating. It's just fascinating. And they've gone out there to that shoot and driven tanks and fired the main guns and stuff like that. But anyway, I have stuff to go over. We still have stuff to talk about. I've still got some things in piles here, there, everywhere. So we're going to go over some more pieces tomorrow. I really thought the Exordium and Spine of Night reviews, I do those. I was watching the clock. It's coming up to an hour. I've had 7 people in the audience. Awesome. And I was just going to wind down, and I just kept going. Weapons of the Gods core rulebook. No. Yes, James Seymour. I know that. I actually know the answer to that. So it's good you caught me. You want to go to mirliton.it. They have tons of Grenadier molds that they do stuff of. You want a Demogorgon from Classic Stranger, or Classic from First Edition Stranger Things, they got it. You want the Grenadier Hireling set, they got them. The Grenadier Specialty Hirelings set, they got those. They just don't have the classic AD&D boxes for them. They don't have the classic AD&D boxes. Which is a shame. They can't put AD&D on the boxes, but the art was gorgeous. But if you check them out, let me see. Just look up Wolf. Goblin Wolf Riders, Orc Warchief Wolf Rider, Orc Wizard Wolf Rider, Orc Wolf Riders Standard Bearers and Drummers, Orc Wolf Riders with Bow, Orc Wolf Riders with Polearm. One of the best magic kung fu TTRPG systems. Shame the developers lost that license. There's a lot of little pieces that have slipped away, unfortunately, that you may never see again. I unironically would love to have for the humor value and just to play a Gonzo RPG. I would love to have. Here, let me share this link, and you can tell me if James, this is what you're after. But I would unironically like to have a copy of Realm of Yolmi, which I think maybe only review copies and convention play copies of it may have existed. It's not valuable. It's like Gary didn't sneak in and write part of it or anything. It's just a wacky post-bio-apocalypse. Think like Worlds of Cinnabar or Spawn of Fashan, something like that. And Spawn of Fashan is another one I'd love to have. But there's a lot of stuff like that that's lost to time. Clear out a hex and build the castle. Right on. All right, guys. It's been 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I think we've all just about had enough of me, haven't we? One more time, I'm going to share the Discord. If you're interested and you want to come to the Discord, come to the Discord. You can come over to the Discord and chit chat with us, especially someone upstream. I don't remember who that is not. Damn it, why when I click copy, don't you copy the first time? If someone upstream suggested I talk to the guys doing Arduin now, I don't remember who that was. I'll have to go back and look through all the chats to find it. But anyway, guys, listen, I mean this when I say I love you all, and I thank every one of you for coming out and listening to me babble. And I genuinely hope you liked The Spine of Night, and I want you to go watch The Spine of Night and Exordium and Mongrel and all of the stuff that Gorgonaut does. So have a wonderful evening. I'll catch you all on the flip side. John David, let me know about This Week in Tech, and we'll see what happens. Y'all have a lovely time, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Peace out.